Okay, so what we can't do is just say that.
I know.
we
I
have
never.
okay, so the night before, there's a local body that we both go to.
Yeah.
We serve
Okay,
together.
I wasn't remembering.
Yeah,
that.
okay. So let me give some help. Okay,
Trauma.
Let me help. Let me help. Okay, because we want to give context to everything.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we keep things fluid. So that's one of the reasons me and David know each other. We serve at one of the same houses. I do the media and I help with the worship experience. He helps with the worship, plays guitar, sings. He helps visually. His wife is a member of that house.
Yeah.
So the night before, so that's a Saturday service,
Yeah.
not a 7-day. What's the name?
Adventist.
No, not a 7-day Adventist church, but it's just that the leadership of that house has Sunday morning situations. So they're either in service, they're doing outreach, they're doing something else, so they can't be in service on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So Saturday night, she shares this testimony that she's going to share the next day at the church that we're mentioning that I actually worked for years before. So it's a lot of connectiveness in the story. She rehearses it once though, right? She did get to rehearse it. Or was it? So she rehearsed.
Well, it was a separate message.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, she kind of did a run through, in terms of that kind of the mindset of what she was going to be doing to educate the service on Sunday.
Yeah.
Then Sunday morning, did she get to do any of the run through sound check, or did she not even get to do that at all?
No. So we just walked in. They wired her
Okay.
up on the mic.
Okay.
And we're worshiping, and this is my first time meeting Pastor Frankie, and so we're hey, nice to meet you, whatever. And then mid service, and then right when they call her up on stage, she walks up on stage, sits down in the chair. Pastor Frankie introduces her, and before she can get her first word out, it happens.
Okay. Better context.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, what happens, because we're in the service. This isn't this. I thought it was a sound check. Because I wasn't there, because I was in Sunday service somewhere else.
Yeah.
So this was in service as
in their first service,
Okay.
and it was being live streamed, so people were tuned in on Facebook and through the website. And my wife, I see her collapse into her seat, and so I run up there. Her head kind of shoots back, so I can tell like something's not right. I ran up there, and me and Frankie just kind of like grab her and lay her on the floor because she's not responsive. And so, looking at her, she's not breathing. I feel no pulse in her wrist, and then that was when it kind of hit me of like she's dying. And there's a point in like movies where you see, and I don't know how they create this effect, but where you see the life kind of leave the body. And I saw that moment. I saw my wife's eyes just lay there and no strength in her. Like I'm holding her hand and there's nothing. I mean, there's not a flitch, not a piece of strength. And so then she starts, coughing up blood. And so there's blood everywhere. And she's just having a breath every maybe 30 seconds, one breath. But the Lord just provided people that knew how to do CPR. So they began to do emergency CPR. EMS gets there. They do their whole thing, try to revive her with the shock pads. One goes off and you hear the flat line. And so I know she doesn't have a pulse. And so they do it again and her pulse comes back. And then they begin to rush her to the hospital. Now at that point, I drive into the hospital. I have no idea if she's alive or not.
So you're not in the ambulance, you're following the ambulance.
Yeah, we followed the ambulance, and then once we get to the hospital, there was some time before we could even, see her.
Yeah. Question. So in the moment when you see your wife's life force, you say Star Wars, her light, going out, what is your thought process in that moment? Are you thinking anything? Are you even there, or are you like, I'm not even there? I can't even be here right now. Are you seeing yourself from like an out of body experience? or was there anything that you can remember that happened that you can hold on to, or was it just in the moment?
Yeah, I remember praying in tongues. Just that was my go-to.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing, but it bitch shit kind of
Yeah. It was kind of like out of a panic.
Yeah.
And then after EMS took over the situation, I just felt like I needed to call as many people as I can. And so I began to just call pastors. Of course, they're not answering because they're
in service
doing the message. And so I'm calling their wives. I'm like, hey, this is the situation. I need y'all to pray right now. So I probably got 4 or 5 churches praying that moment.
Mine was one of them because I got a text from Sam, another Sam, and we added Micah to the prayer list. And I was in worship, and I just was like, I think even Adam was there, and he might not remember because Adam is our guy behind the scenes that's doing an amazing job making sure we do this right. Appreciate you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
And he's one of the volunteers at Inspire Church that I serve at. And I got the text, and we were about to be in our prayer moment for the congregational needs of the church.
Wow.
So I didn't have time to put it up on this for that service, but we have another one. And I just was like, whatever you're doing, this ain't it. Like, Lord. And we partnered with you in that place. That's all I can say. As you continue the story, so you're following the ambulance. You don't know what's going on. You get to the hospital. There's time that's needed. I think, doesn't Becky meet you at the hospital or something like that?
Oh, yeah. They're there in like 2 minutes.
And so
in Virginia.
Yeah. So Becky and Virginia are some of our leadership at Launch, which is the house that we go to together, that was able to help walk you through this process, right?
Yeah.
In terms of overarching leadership. And let's go ahead with the story.
Yeah. So we're at the hospital, and, all my family's there, all our family's there. Doctor comes out who's a believer, he's a cardiologist. And he's just like, we just need to pray. There's no, like, is she alive? Is she this? They was like, we just need to pray. And so I remember in that prayer, just remembering, like, I need to be in a position of faith. I need to believe the best for my wife.
Okay, so when you say a position of faith, can you let me know? Because I don't understand what a position of faith is. So
when I say position of faith, I'm saying when I'm praying, I'm not praying, Lord, if you want to take my wife, do it. I'm praying, Lord, heal her.
Yeah.
Bring her back to life.
Yeah.
Let me talk to her again. That posture of faith that knows that God can do it. And that was just what that's the only thing I wanted to pray.
So in that place, I mean, spoiler alert, we know because we've spoken about she's alive,
Hint. she's alive.
Well, but there was a walking out process to that thing, right?
Yeah.
So how? Because wasn't she in a coma or something like that? She was unconscious for a while, or like,
yeah.
So what was that walking out process of getting her? Because this has been almost 2 years now, or a year and a half at least at the time we're recording this this podcast that this has happened. So what was the process for you? So she goes back into a normal rhythm with her heart, right?
Yeah.
But they want to monitor those pieces, and they say, right, that she might come back with major deficits.
Yeah.
So what was that? Because there's segments of the posture of faith, right?
Yeah.
There's one that, Lord, you're not taking my wife, you're not taking my family, you're not doing those things. But then there's also, now, like, if the Lord says, okay, I'm giving her to you back, but it's in a way that you don't know her.
Yeah.
Like, what was that kind of posture to believe that when she comes back, she's going to be who she is? Because, like, we both know that there's a call on her life in terms of the education into the church of what sex trafficking and the effects of that has is super necessary and needed on what we need to do to kind of come back into oneness with the Lord.
Yeah.
So, and I'm saying I'm making this a little bit longer in terms of asking the question because
it's a good question.
It's something that's different than what, okay, the Lord just gave me this and I go from here.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that you put conditions on what you needed from the Lord because you knew He was able to provide.
Yeah, and I don't know in that moment that I knew He was able.
That's good.
I didn't know.
That's good.
And it was just what I was being honest. Like, this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And they put her in a coma. So they put you in a coma because your brain can only survive so long without oxygen. So their whole thing was she's most definitely probably has some brain damage. They're like, we can't fix that. So they said, we're going to put her in a coma for 3 days. Then we're going to ice her body. So they drop your body temp to 90 degrees. And they say, in 3 days, we'll see if she wakes up.
Well, we know somebody that did.
Yeah. And so the first night, that was the valley. That was because I had prayed every prayer I knew how. And I was like, I asked the Lord, I was like, so when do I stop praying? At one point, are you going to stop listening to my prayer? That was the question I was asking. Because I'd already prayed prayed for hours. And I was like, either bring her out of this or you don't. But what I'm doing right now, do I just keep doing this? Do I just keep praying? And someone texted me this song by Christine DeMarco. It's called Lily's Song.
I know.
And yeah, the lyrics are just, I will not die, I will live, but I will tell him.
I'm sorry. I'm like, let me get away from the mic right now because I'm about to
and
feel
sing
away.
of His goodness.
Yes.
And so
come on, Jesus.
I made a playlist of just that one song, and I put it on repeat, and I put the phone on my chest, and I said, Lord, if I fall asleep, I fall asleep, but I'm gonna worship this song, and I'm gonna pray this song over Micah. And I left that song playing over her the entire time on repeat.
Yeah.
Because doctors were saying that she could hear.
Yeah.
You know, if the brain damage hadn't affected that area, she would be able to hear.
Yeah.
And so when we started to begin to see some breakthrough, I began to notice her eyebrows moving. And that was when I began to feel like, okay, like she's there. I just can't access her right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody was praying. And so it was the second day she began to come out of the coma. And I just remember seeing the nurses come out with just tears in their eyes. They're like, she's waking up. And they were freaking out because she's breaking the protocols. Because her body hasn't been warmed up yet. She's at full sedation, but she's waking up.
Yeah, like pulling tubes out the nose and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we actually have to run back into the room and hold her down. So it's me, Daniel. It's me, Daniel, and this other big guy named Aaron. And we have her arms.
Yeah, yeah.
And she has, the ventilator tube, and she's just fighting us.
Oof.
And we're just like, we're sorry, but you gotta just stay down.
Yeah.
And
this is for your own good.
Yeah, yeah. And so they just keep pumping her with they're like, we can't sedate her anymore. And she keeps coming back. So then they gotta rush and get warming pads to heat her body back up. They were like, we've never had a situation like this.
Yeah.
And I just remember them saying, okay, we're gonna need everybody to leave the room. We're gonna remove her tube and see if she comes we're gonna try to bring her out of the coma. And so we leave the room, and nurse comes, gets me, brings me back there, and there's my wife, and we have a conversation.
Again, this guy with the theatrics, there's my wife, and we have a conversation. So you're saying that there was no deficits?
No deficits. It was like she said, where am I? What's happened?
Come on.
Why is my hair all matted with blood? What? She said, I look like a Neanderthal. That was the thing she kept saying.
Yeah.
And they told me that her memory wasn't going to come back until maybe a day or something.
Yeah.
So I would tell her what happened, and she would forget, and then I'd have to tell her again. It's like that movie Along Came Polly, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every day having the same breakfast.
Yeah, but then she was back, and it was Thanksgiving, so we had Thanksgiving in the hospital, and she was totally normal. The neurologist came in, had her do all these tests, touch this. I mean, they were just baffled. And we walked out of the hospital, went home.
Okay.
No therapy, no rehab, no.
There's a part.
Nothing.
There's like a C clause to this thing. Okay, let me get back in my mic. I'm sorry. There's a C clause to this thing though. So that's supposed to A was the resurrection. The B is her being 100% fluid and coming back in the place where she's still Micah. But there's a C thing. There's still a church that experienced some lady.
She died in the first service, and they did 2 more services after that on the same stage.
And they had to figure out, like, okay, that's an altar. We both believe that every time we give the Lord an opportunity to be glorified, that's an altar. That's what the Bible says.
Yeah.
So what does that quote unquote sacrificial lamb, which was your wife, what did she break? Because we know that there was some significant movements in the Lord since that moment.
Yeah.
But what did it birth? Like, what has been the report been from this church in the Woodlands that Pastor Frankie Massapequa, is the pastor of? What's going on there? Because I want to know, how was the church affected with this?